Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. So today I have a list that I've covered before, but it's very consistent. And I had a couple of comments that requested I do some earlier pull 3 builds, some that aren't requiring as many Series 4 or Series 5 cards. And I hear you. I covered this one recently, and this one is a incredibly strong list. If you're looking for a list and you happen to have a few of these core cards, so you have your Aero, your Leader, and your Daredevil. Those are the 3 Series 3 cards that you need to make this deck list work. You could potentially replace Aero with a Gamora or a Vision. Daredevil is tough to replace, but you could do it. It just gives you that insight for that easy turn 5 drop. But with the initiative and being able to push as much power as you do as quickly as you do, you don't always need it if you can anticipate well. And then Leader is almost core in this list. He's just really strong right now in being able to put yourself into a position where you can find that win condition regardless of what your opponent is playing. But this list runs pretty similarly. It is very consistent, and it does a very good job of keeping tempo advantage whenever you want it, because you want to be able to drop your Cosmo to counter any kind of preemptive or anticipated on reveal abilities. You want to be able to do an Aero play to yank their cards into a location that is a disadvantage for them. Or you want to be able to have your Leader reveal before theirs does. That way you can get some additional upside there as well. And this deck does a very good job of putting consistent early power into a very consistent power push for the late game, or being able to maneuver yourself into a winning condition. Now, ideally, over the first couple of turns, you'll drop an early Angela, a couple of Sentinels, a Lizard into a lane that you're looking to lock down with Professor X early. That way you know that it's going to be a 5 power push instead of a 2 power push if they ended up maxing it out. And you can also use this as a tool to get that early initiative. And then you can utilize that to find your flexible win condition. Cosmo is a great counter to any kind of big, greedy on reveal deck, which we have a lot of right now. So if you see a Wong, you can drop a Cosmo into that lane. If you see, Black Panther or an anticipated Arnim Zola, if you're anticipating a Galactus, so if you see an early ramp and maybe they threw a Wolverine down or some other early warning signs of a Galactus deck, you can throw Cosmo into one of the empty lanes that they have to try to block that Galactus. And if you do, and you're successful in blocking it, then they'll likely retreat and you'll just win the game. The deck performs very well in the current meta. Even with leeches, you can often position yourself in a way to win because you have enough power to outpace the opponent, even if they do a last turn Leader drop. But I am going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. During this recording session, I hit so many different kinds of meta decks right now, and we actually went on a little bit of a winning spree, and I don't know that I've lost with this deck yet. So let's go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, so first up we have Bootleg, and the first location is Dark Dimension. So we're going to be able to maybe hide some of our cards. Most of the time, most of this deck doesn't necessarily want to operate within Dark Dimension, but we could throw like a surprise Devil Dino behind Dark Dimension, or maybe if they're playing heavily into it, we throw and lock our Cosmo in there just in case they are playing an on reveal heavy deck. And so they throw us a Black Widow, so we're actually going to go ahead and throw that into Clintar this turn so that it can turn into a symbiote. Let's go ahead and we're gonna hide our Cosmo in the Dark Dimension. We don't know if they're gonna play cards there, if they're gonna be doing any kind of on reveals. They are, but they're doing them. It's a debris junk deck, but they're doing it on the right hand side. So maybe they'll try to hide a Wong and a Hazmat and some strong cards here, and maybe we'll get some value out of that Cosmo. But for ours to reveal first, we'll have to have initiative going into that last turn, or as the game ends, and so we need to keep that in mind as we're playing our cards here. So let's go ahead and play White Queen. That'll give us a little bit of information into what their highest power card or what their highest cost card is. And they play a Debris. They almost clog up our Xandar location. I feel like we probably need to play a card here this turn, just in case they have a Goblin or just anything else. Maybe they have an Absorbing Man that can copy the Debris. We want to be able to at least get some value out of Xandar. And we do know that we have the Cosmo play here, so we can start hiding some cards there. They extend the game with a Magic, so they probably do have a Hazmat and a Wong that they're wanting to push, and so maybe we can get lucky and find our win condition. Do we play a leader here? We can play a leader, and then we can play an Odin. Probably not great, but it might work. We'll see. They play one card in mid, and it is Sarah. Oh boy. That's definitely something. So we know that they have an Odin as well. So we're going to use our Odin to copy whatever they play, hopefully here. It's going to be our highest power play, and I think they probably drop 2 cards here. We will very likely lose this one, but we are going to use the Odin that we got from our White Queen to try to find some increased upside. It's going to re-trigger our leader, and then we'll copy the cards. The 2 cards they play to the left, which is probably what, Wong and Hazmat? Oh no, that's awful. That's awful. So now the Cosmo comes in too late, of course. Okay. All right, so next up we have Platinum Komodo. First location is Project Pegasus, which is not typically what we want to see. I think we might just go with a Moon Girl. We want to play it safe. We don't want to flood our resources onto the board, but we also don't want to really play nothing, because that's a lot of value that the opponent's going to have, potentially, to get on the board. Now, if they end up dropping a leader, they will copy our Moon Girl, which is okay. It's not the end of the world if they do that. But it's much better than if we had dropped a lot of resources. So they drop an Angela, a Cosmo, and a Sunspot. And so they're going to have a pretty decently powered Project Pegasus, but they only have 1 card left in hand, which is a bit of an issue. They flooded the board very, very heavily. And so now we can start leaning into some of our other cards in the cards we copied. We'll be able to use Aero to maneuver their play around on turns 5 and 6, or 5 or 6. We could just use them to buff up our Devil Dino later on in the game. We have a lot of resources to now stack into Stark Tower. It just gave us that flexibility that they aren't going to have. And so we're going to go ahead and play one of our Nightcrawlers, maybe even both of our Nightcrawlers, into Stark Tower, so that after turn 5, they can get the upside of the Stark Tower bonus, and then we can move them wherever we need them to be. They are letting their Sunspot buff up quite a bit here. I like the idea of having the Daredevil on the board, but I also kind of like the idea of having Cosmo. And so we're going to go with the Daredevil. We'll see what they played into this Clintar lane. It is going to turn into a Symbiote after this turn, so it is a 10 power play that they have. And we don't have any way to destroy it, but I think that's okay. I don't think it's the end of the world for us. All right, and so they are dropping a Leech. Leeches are very, 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 very common right now. And so the issue with a potential Leech play is that it's a very low power push. And so maybe next turn they do a leader, but we have our 4 power. We will have our 4 power Nightcrawlers that can shift across the board. They have initiative, so we couldn't do our Cosmo to block it. I think we play our Cosmo and our Lizard. That's going to make this middle location the only location where they could play a potential leader play. And so from there, we could position our cards and I think find our win condition, even if we don't play anything incredibly large. And so let's go ahead and lock in the Cosmo and the leader. We know that the Leech is coming. We don't need the redirection with Aero because the left and right lane already have Cosmos in place, so no on reveals are going to trigger. So we're really kind of pigeonholing them into a very particular play line. And so we could do a Nightcrawler and a Nightcrawler. That's going to end up being, what, 16 power? That'll keep us at 15 power here, so a 10 power play would be needed. We could do a White Queen and a Sentinel, but let's do the Sentinel first and then the White Queen. That will give us 9 power, bringing us to 15. So if they do drop a play, then we'll be able to outpower them. We'll be able to outpower them here and here. If they drop a leader, then we'll outpower them here because it'll copy the 3 power from Sentinel, and then we'll get the 6 power in return. We'll see. I've been back and forth on if we push both our Nightcrawlers into one direction or to one or the other, and we're going to go with the 1-in-1. I think either way, the leader play wouldn't find them the win condition, but a Dracula and a 0 might, though. Very interesting. We should have kept the White Queen over here. Depending on what this draws into, it is an Ebony Maw, so that is a 1 power off, being able to find that win condition. So typically with a Leech play, you lose a lot of potency on your last couple of turns. And so it's very risky to run Leech in very many decks because it loses you so much tempo that if the opponent has any kind of raw power at all, it's going to be hard to keep the lead against them. And so I am glad that we ran up against the leech, because that is all over the meta right now. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Cade, and if I remember correctly, Cade has been it's been a battle back and forth between me and Cade on several different occasions. He runs a pretty strong list, and I feel like we just keep bouncing back and forth off of each other. And so the first location is the Avengers compound. So on turn 5, all cards are going to have to be played there. So that makes it harder for us to set up a Professor X play. We might be able to do some high tempo into that lane and then find our win condition there afterwards. We may also be able to, on turn 6, drop an Aero and pull whatever they play over into Fisk Tower. Could also be a potential play path. Oh, wow. And so now we have 2 Professor X's. We have 2 Professor X, 2 copies of Professor X. And so if we can get a big enough lead in the Avengers compound, then we can lock it down on 5. They're actually going to be able to play Professor X a little bit earlier than that. They can play Professor X on this turn. So I'm actually going to play our Sentinel and our Daredevil into the far right. Whoa, we're going to hope. We're going to hope that they throw Professor X here, or if they throw it here, at least we have a little bit of power push in the Daily Bugle. Oh, no, so they're going to lock down Fisk Tower. Or they could do a leech, right? Oh, man, that's awful. An early leech. Okay, no. So they do the Professor X. We're having an internal battle against ourselves back and forth and back and forth. Now, I don't think they do a Galactus here. The Electro ramp oftentimes is combined with a potential Galactus play, but I just feel like it's a little bit too risky for them to do here. They do a Destroyer, which is a massive 16 power, or a massive 15 power push after the nerf. So we can do a Devil Dino, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That's 13. And then with the help of Angela, that matches their 15. So we'll keep initiative. And then going into that last turn, I don't know. I don't know what maybe they have a leader? Maybe they have a Galactus? I don't know what they have. We're going to snap into it, though. The Devil Dino gives us a really big push towards finding our win condition. Do we keep it in the Daily Bugle? I don't know. We will find out. So the Devil Dino comes down. It is a massive, massive card, and that keeps us in the tempo advantage in the far left lane. And so now we have to try to decide what they're going to play into the Daily Bugle. So if this is a Warpath, that's 9 power. They could also do a 2 power play on top of it. I just don't know what they're going to run. Maybe they have Arnim Zola, and it could move their Destroyer over here. I'm just behooved. I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna play. But I don't know. They could have a could they have a Taskmaster? Taskmaster would copy the 15 power, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 power here. That would give us Aero would allow us to find the win condition, because this is going to be 10. Let's hope that it's the Taskmaster play. That's our read, and we're sticking to it. I hope they play... No, it's the Arnim Zola, isn't it? Arnim Zola is a No, it's a Shang-Chi. Oh my gosh. We still find the win condition. The Aero allows us to still find the win condition by 1. The Shang-Chi was not even on my mind, honestly. With the ramp deck, I didn't anticipate a Shang-Chi. I anticipated some kind of big power push or some kind of big greedy play. Turns out I was the one that was being greedy. So had we played our Aero in Daily Bugle, we actually would have found our win condition that way as well. But we will take it. We will take the 4 cubes where we can. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have My Hero Academia. Next up we have Deku. And I think there's an extra E in there compared to how it is in My Hero. The first location is X Mansion, so we're going to get a random RNG pool, which could be really honestly anything. And then the middle location is the Avengers compound again. So what we're going to want to do is have enough of a power push that maybe we can get a Professor X lockdown there. And if we can do that, then we can more easily position our win conditions later on. So they do a Domino into a Groot, which is a big power push on their end, which is a little bit sad that they have the same amount of power that we do. That's going to make a turn 5 Professor X lockdown much more difficult. And they get the hood from the X Mansion. We get Jubilee, which pulls into our leader, which copies their Groot, which is actually, we will take it. That allows us to do a much easier turn 5 Professor X lockdown because the Groot triggers once again, making it 9 power instead of 6. What a what a strange turn. We're gonna go ahead and snap off of that, see if they'll retreat. They do have the 1 power demon token, or the 1 cost demon token that they can play into Avengers Compound for a pretty big power push. But we're gonna do White Queen, see what the highest cost card that they have is, and get a little bit of information. So they have a natural Hulk. Very interesting. And they play their demon on the far left. So that should allow us to do a Professor X into maybe a Devil Dino. Our Devil Dino would be stronger than their Devil Dino, and we could find the win condition that way, I assume. The White Tiger, they're not going to be able to re-trigger that with Odin, if that is what play path they were going with. The White Tiger token goes over into Necrotia, so they do have initiative on us in this turn. So a Devil Dino is going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 13 power. This would be 12. I don't think we can beat 13 power. 13 power is the best that we can do. We're losing this lane by 1. We're losing this one by 4. So I'm going to throw our Devil Dino into Necrotia. And we're gonna hope for the best. We get 1 additional power. Ooh, the Hulk. Oh no, we knew they had a Hulk too. Is that enough? Yeah, we find the win condition. Just barely, we find our win condition. We knew they had the Hulk. We probably... No, I still stand by this play. Had they played it here, we wouldn't have kept our tempo advantage. We just barely were able to find tie condition in Necrotia, and we had a big enough lead to win the tiebreaker. Let's go ahead and jump over into one more. All right, next up we have Dash 3717. So the first location is Necrotia. They play Nova, so they're probably playing a Death Wave, which is typically fine. We're usually able to outpace a Death Wave deck, especially if we can get a Professor X lockdown. We copy whatever they play on the last turn with Leader. As long as we can have tempo advantage going into it, then we should be able to find our win condition. Now they play Nova into Forge, which is not what I was anticipating. Maybe they're going to hit this with a Carnage. It's just kind of a surprising play path. Let's go with the Daredevil into mid. We want to try to have card advantage on them in Mojo World, because if they do end up destroying that lane, then maybe we can find the condition to lock it down with Professor X and have the 100 point advantage, making it easier to find a win condition, because if we have a tiebreaker, we win by 100 versus just being off of the raw power that we played. Now they do a Storm into Necrotia. They have that one capped out. It's not a Cerebro 2 deck. So they also have Juggernaut in hand. That's their highest power card. I almost think that we do a Sentinel into a Cosmo. That will stop their Juggernaut. But we should have initiative off of it. As long as we have initiative off of it, we can use our Juggernaut here to make sure that they can't win this one. I anticipate a Silver Surfer or some kind of card that is going to buff these up. So Silver Surfer is probably my first thought, along with maybe like a Wolfsbane. And so we're going to be able to push those off of Mojo World, push them into Clintar, where they're not going to do much good for them. And so we can do a Juggernaut into a Sentinel. Maybe 9 power over here will be enough. No, they do end up retreating. It looked like a pretty standard Surfer list, except for the Nova. Nova was kind of surprising, but I guess they could have a Killmonger as like a counter card that is a 3 cost. And we were going to be able to find the win with the Juggernaut, which I think they knew that we had Juggernaut. And so it was a very tactical and wise retreat. All right, and so with that last win out of the way, we actually went 5-0 with this list against some people that we've been playing against and kind of back and forth because they've had pretty decent decks. We went against a variety of different decks and different combos, and we were able to find a win condition in each one. And that is what this list does well, is that consistency piece. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like and a comment down below. And as always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.